Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Back in September 2020, there was an event in Uttar Pradesh that literally shook the conscience of the entire nation. Today, we're going to break down the Z5 docuseries Hathras 16 Days, along with a really detailed review of it by the YouTube channel Witty Chaka. This series takes an incredibly hard look at a deeply tragic and honestly a massive systemic failure. We're going to be unpacking the raw facts, the timelines, and the heavily conflicting narratives presented in the documentary, figuring out exactly how this tragedy unfolded and what it actually reveals about the system we rely on.
To really understand the gravity of this series, we kind of have to start with the broader national context. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Save the daughter, educate the daughter. We all know it, right? It's the Prime Minister's highly recognizable national slogan. It's supposed to be this rock-solid promise of safety, education, and empowerment for women all across India. And honestly, it's a sentiment that resonates deeply with where we want to be as a modern nation.
But then, you hear from the victim's mother in Hathras, and her reality stands in just heartbreaking contrast to that national promise. She asks, when daughters won't even survive, where will they study from? I don't want even the shadow of this place to fall on my children. The reviewer points out this profound helplessness right away, and it really establishes the deeply emotional stakes of this whole analysis. Because remember, this isn't just a statistic we're talking about. It's a completely shattered family asking the most basic questions about survival.
Let's dive into part 1, the 2020 context.
To truly grasp how this story developed, we need to mentally step back to September 2020. Do you remember what that was like? The entire country was locked indoors, totally gripped by the panic of the COVID-19 pandemic. And if you turned on the news, our TV screens were completely saturated by the limitless media trial surrounding Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput. But right in the middle of all that deafening noise, a remarkably grim reality was largely being ignored. A 19-year-old Dalit girl in Hathras was subjected to a brutal gang rape by 4 influential upper-caste men. The documentary actually argues that this massive national distraction played a huge role in how those crucial early days of the investigation were handled.
That brings us to part 2, those 16 days.
So, the director, Patrick Graham, chose a very specific, linear way to tell this story across 3 30-minute episodes. Everything kicks off on Day 1, September 14th, 2020. That's the day of the horrific incident. But then, notice this massive gap. Nothing happens until Day 8. It took 8 whole days for a medical test to be conducted. Why? We'll get to that. Then, skip all the way to Day 15. The documentary heavily investigates why the victim, who was in a highly critical condition, was shifted to Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi instead of a specialized top-tier facility like AIIMS. And finally, Day 16 marks the victim's tragic passing. This timeline? It isn't just a sequence of events, it's essentially a map of systemic delays that the docuseries thoroughly scrutinizes.
And that leads right into part 3, questions on the system. The real thematic core of the documentary is the severe friction between this incredibly vulnerable family and the massive response of the system. The series systematically outlines the hurdles they faced step by step. Step 1 was that 8-day delay in the medical checkup. Now, you might be wondering, why does that matter so much? Well, Step 2 explains it perfectly. Because of this delay, a gynecologist noted that proving rape medically after 8 days is practically impossible. This allowed authorities to cite a technical lack of evidence to avoid applying rape charges right out of the gate. Then we hit Step 3. The series investigates these intense allegations that police actively tried to feed alternative narratives, specifically honor-killing theories, directly to journalists just to shift the blame onto the family.
Let's look a little closer at the clash between the official claims and the recorded evidence. The Director General of Police claimed the victim didn't actually mention rape initially, but the documentary presents early records where the victim, despite groaning in pain, clearly used the words zabardasti, meaning force, and gala dabaya, meaning choked. The reviewer also notes some deeply unsettling footage in the series. The accused are actually shown in police custody waving their hands, just displaying this chilling fearlessness and total confidence in the face of the law. And perhaps the most shocking part? There's a quote highlighted from one of the accused fathers who literally said, "If a melon falls on a knife, it will get cut." I mean, wow. That right there gives you a terrifying glimpse into the mindset and the raw power dynamics at play in that region.
Moving on to part 4, media trial versus ground reporting.
So the authorities weren't the only ones trying to shape the narrative here. There was an intense, all-out battle within the media itself. On the ground, you had reporters like Tanushree Pandey, Nidhi Suresh, and these incredibly brave local journalists risking everything, clashing directly with the police just to record statements from the family.
But meanwhile, operating from highly comfortable studios, newsroom narratives and deliberate systemic leaks were dominating the airwaves. The series highlights some wildly controversial moments, like when journalist Tanushree Pandey's phone was allegedly tapped while she was speaking to the victim's brother, and that audio was leaked to spin the story against them. The reviewer neutrally points out the documentary's inclusion of newsroom anchors like Rubika Liaquat, showing the stark, jarring contrast in how the story was aggressively framed from inside a studio versus the chaotic, dangerous reality of Ground Zero.
Our job is to give you facts so you can form an informed opinion. I absolutely love this quote from journalist Emil Bitnagar because it captures the exact essence of what those ground reporters were fighting for. The docuseries really champions this journalistic ethos amidst immense, unimaginable pressure. In fact, the reviewer points out that Tanushree Pandey's relentless ground reporting on this exact case earned her the prestigious Ramnath Gonka Award for Journalism. It's a powerful reminder that fighting for the truth, especially when the system pushes back, is absolutely vital for all of us.
Let's pull back the lens for Part 5, the broader reality.
While our explainer today focuses on one family's 16-day tragedy, both the documentary and the review make it crystal clear that this is part of a much, much larger systemic issue. 10. That is the number I want you to focus on for a second. According to National Crime Records Bureau data highlighted in the review, this is the staggering reality. 10 Dalit women are raped every single day in India. 10. Every single day. And what's even more alarming is the data suggests that in very few of these cases are charges actually registered under caste-based crime laws. So what does this tell us? The Hathras tragedy isn't just an isolated incident, it's a highly visible flashpoint of a daily, ongoing reality for marginalized communities.
Finally, Part 6, the aftermath.
So where exactly does that leave the family today, roughly 6 years later? Well, the documentary reveals a pretty chilling update. Yes, the family did receive a monetary compensation of 25 lakh rupees, but the cost? The cost has been their basic human freedom. For the past 5 years, they have been living under what the reviewer describes as house arrest-like conditions, supposedly for their own protection. It's a continuing, totally silent tragedy. They're isolated, alienated, and trapped in a perpetual state of fear right inside their own home. The news cameras may have left a long time ago, but for them, the punishment just continues. Ultimately, after analyzing this entire 90-minute documentary series, the reviewer leaves us with one critical, lingering question. Kya us ladki ko nyay mila? Did that girl get justice? We've looked at the timeline, the systemic delays, the highly conflicting media narratives, and the family's ongoing isolation. The facts are all right here on the table for you to form an informed opinion. I highly recommend you take some time out of your busy schedules to watch Hathras 16 Days and really reflect on this question for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.